Perhaps I hit the right button.
Okay, got it. So we're recording. That's good. And Ayaskanta, good morning. Happy Friday. So glad you're here.
Good morning. Good to see you, Christy.
Yes, it's been a long, long time.
Yes. So you're back in Culpeper now?
Yes, I'm in Culpeper. This is my background from Venice, Florida,
course.
where I go in the winter. But yes, I'm in Culpeper. I should have a Culpeper background to make it more appropriate.
That's beautiful. It looks nice. Venice looks nice.
Yeah. So how are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, we are doing well actually as a department. You should come visit. The PhD program has definitely grown.
Oh, wonderful. That's
we-
great news.
What you started, I think we kind of latched onto a good pipeline of students from India. So the all Indian.
Oh.
So now we have 3 students, and from India, my student just graduated. She got a tenure track position at Oklahoma Health Science Center.
Great.
So it's going well.
Yeah. So some of the previous students are also in tenure track positions, which is
They are.
wonderful. Yeah, yeah. Rachel Mullahern is doing very well.
Yes, Western. Yes, I was talking
Yeah.
to her recently.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Okay, looks like everybody's coming on board.
Mhm.
And we're recording this, if that's okay with you, Ayaskanta. I think you said that was
Perfectly fine.
okay. Yeah,
Yes.
it's just for my poor memory. So I was going to write this up, both for the members, and sometimes we submit them to the local Rappahannock News newspaper. And
Mhm.
so we'll try and get this published as well. But don't worry, I'll check everything with you before we submit it to anybody to see.
Sure.
Okay. So we're getting people on board here. I think according to Patty, there were about 12 people signed up, and a couple of people may be coming on board at the last minute as well. And so we'll give them maybe one more minute and then we'll start. I don't want to keep you waiting.
That's fine.
Yeah. So let's see, have we got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're and Sharon, good. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Christy.
And we've got the Wenger duo here. Hi, Mike. And so we've got and Nancy's on phone and Pat's on phone. Okay, so maybe we'll go ahead. What do you think, Patty? We just had one more person join us. I think we'll probably go ahead. Were you going to show slides, Ayaskanta?
I am not.
Okay, that's fine. That makes everything simpler. And that way we don't get lost in internet land. So I just wanted to give a short introduction. Dr. Ayaskanta Rout comes from India originally. He's got his undergraduate training there, and I think your master's as well in India.
Yes.
And then came to the United States and got his PhD, I think from Purdue, is that right?
I did. Yes.
Yes. And Purdue is one of the best programs in our fields in audiology and speech pathology. So he went to a STAR program to get his PhD. And he's been at JMU for at least a decade. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And is now a full professor and in charge of the audiology program, which trains doctors of audiology in the state. And it's the only program in Virginia that does that. And so he has a big responsibility that way. In addition, he runs the hearing aids lab research program, and that is the only hearing aid lab research program in the state as well. So he's an important ingredient in hearing services and research in knowledge and training new people in our state. So we're very, very lucky to have Dr. Rout here because he's a key to anything to do with hearing in Virginia. And he's going to give us a talk. He's done this many times before. He did it to the AARP, so we're following on a good route here, and as well to another community senior group as well. So he's keyed up to answer our questions, and we also will leave plenty of time for questions for everybody as well. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ludlow. I'm honored that you asked me to come talk to your group. And of all the things we do as faculty members, this is one of the most enjoyable things, because all the things that we read, we do research, it all takes to just kind of boil it down to what it means for us as community. So that's what I'd like to do. And while Dr. Ludlow was introducing me, she missed out one part, that I was her neighbor when she was in JMU as a faculty member, and I was like a sponge that kind of absorbed every information that came from away. So we used to have a fun research group and a lot of presentations. So I benefited immensely from being close to Dr. Ludlow. So grateful for that. And I'm glad that I did not do a slide presentation, because that's what I anticipated, because I thought people would be logging in from home. So depending on where you're logging in, I see some of you are on phone, so it's good. So we are on the right track. Now, I do tend to talk fast, like most of my friends from India. So if I do that, please ask me to slow down, okay? And I will try my best. So what I thought would be right for our forum here is, I'll just give you an overview of where where are the regulations, what are services available, and what do we do as people who potentially have hearing loss or who needs an audiologist. And I'll just give you a little bit of rundown on that. And then we'll have questions. Any questions you have, I'll be happy to answer to the best of my ability. Does that sound like a plan?
That sounds great.
Okay. All right. So most likely, pretty much everybody here has had a chance to get a hearing test done at some point, or at least have heard about a hearing test. And it is very important, like as any other part of our sensory system, whether it's our eyes or taste, the hearing system kind of deteriorates with age. I mean, it's natural. And here's an interesting thing. If you are thinking that, oh, I am retired and my ears are bad, a new data that came out of Northwestern University, that's one of the best places that does research in our field, they found out that hearing starts declining, listen to this, in the mid-20s. So people start losing their hearing in the mid-20s. But the good news is it really doesn't impact our ability to understand speech or listen to music. That happens pretty much in the late 60s, early 70s, when the hearing loss has started encroaching more and more into the areas where it actually impacts us. Okay, so hearing loss. In fact, I was testing my hearing earlier this morning. We have a study going on where we are comparing the free internet-based hearing tests that are available to the accuracy of a gold standard hearing test. So I was a subject for my students, and turns out I have a little bit of hearing loss now, and I am closing in on 50. So hearing loss starts way earlier in life, but it's not affecting my ability to communicate or follow conversation yet, but I know it'll affect in another 10, 15 years for sure. Okay. So when hearing loss happens as a result of age, it's most commonly, in fact, in most cases, it is a result of damage to the inner ear and the nerves. Most likely the inner ear, the structure. And unfortunately, as of now, we do not have a medicine or a medical treatment to fix that, at least as of now. Okay, so that leaves us with options, which I'm sure you have heard it, and I'm sure you get flyers coming to your mailboxes from time to time about hearing aids, right? And the good news is, even if hearing aids are not perfect, they do work and they do help us understand and hear better in different scenarios. And today I'll spend a lot of our time just kind of demystifying the cost of hearing aids. Do you really need the Cadillac of hearing aids? Short answer is no, but you don't have to. And I'll give you some evidence for that. So when we have a hearing loss that affects our inner ears, we have to rely on these hearing aids that tend to work well. And sometimes when the hearing loss is extreme, very severe, hearing aids really don't help. In that case, some people will need to get cochlear implants. Okay. And cochlear implants, as you might have heard, is a much more involved process. It involves a surgery, and that's a medical decision at that point. But in today's talk, if it is okay with you, we'll focus mostly on hearing aids and hearing health. But if you have any question on any other areas, I'll be happy to answer. Right. So, and when you go to an audiologist and get your hearing tested, they will show you a graph and they'll tell you that, oh, think of this as the keyboard of a piano or something. Your hearing loss goes from low pitches to high pitches, and this is the nature, the severity of hearing loss, etc., etc. Okay, and when hearing loss starts, for example, if you're in your 60s or 70s, in many times you'll see the hearing loss is called what we call a mild hearing loss. But I urge you to not think mild hearing loss is a mild problem. A mild hearing loss can be a major problem depending where you are, right? If you are involved in busy boardroom meetings, or let's say your community meetings, or you are at a restaurant, even having a little bit of hearing loss can be quite a bit challenging. And a lot of times people take it for granted that it is appropriate for my age, but a lot of times it results in misunderstanding. Okay, sometimes those are fun and we say, oh, I misunderstood, but sometimes it could result in miscommunication, and that could lead to difficult situations. Let's put it that way. And so if you get a hearing test and your audiologist tells you that you have mild hearing loss, I bet they will kind of tell you that it is not a mild problem. We need to do something about it. Okay, so that's one aspect of thinking about hearing loss. The other aspect, that when you have a hearing loss, sometimes, typically in people in the elderly or in the young children, what happens is you could have an overlay condition of something called an ear infection or something like that. Those are treatable. Okay, but when that medical condition like ear infection or your ear feels plugged up, if those things are resolved, you still have the nerve and the inner ear problem still there. Okay, so that's not going to go away. All right, let's talk a little bit. Let me say a little bit, a couple of words about where to get your hearing test. I know Dr. Ludlow sent me some questions she had in her mind, so I'm going to kind of follow that pattern. And then I bet you have lots of questions, and I would love to answer your questions. Okay, we'll go through that. The best place to go get a hearing test is from a certified licensed audiologist. And the good news is now the field of audiology has grown to a point where you are more likely to see an audiologist's office in your town than what used to be 20 years ago. Typically, it's a good idea to get a medical evaluation. For example, an otolaryngologist evaluation, because they can rule out other medical conditions if needed. Also, if you, excuse me, if you are a candidate for hearing aids and you're going to get a hearing aids, pair of hearing aids, either you need to get a medical clearance from an otolaryngologist, or you have to sign a waiver. Being somebody who always cites on the side of caution, I said it's always a good idea to see an audiologist, because an otolaryngologist or ENT surgeon, because you are getting more bang for your bucks, basically. All right. Is my rate of speech okay? Am I okay? Thank you.
Yes, you're doing fine.
All right, wonderful. So that's about hearing tests. Now, a quick summary of hearing aids. Okay, hearing aids are like toothbrushes, basically, to me. Everybody has one, and they are all different, but they are being advertised doing different things. Everybody says theirs is better. Okay. Now, how do we, as consumers, decide what's good for us? I think the best option is to consult with a licensed audiologist and kind of ask as many questions as you have. Why? Because I just read a large survey. They had 80,000 people. It's called a hearing aid industry survey. They do it every 8 to 10 years, and they send questionnaires to a lot of people. And the interesting thing is, most people who get hearing aids, they only consult one audiologist. Nobody seeks a second, not many people seek a second opinion. That could be good, that they're happy with their audiologist. That's a good thing. But what I thought was a little bit, people are not doing their part, is that patients just accept the recommendation the audiologist says. Oh, you need this hearing aid? Okay, we'll take this hearing aid. So you need to know, as consumers, that the state agencies allow you to get a free trial period with hearing aids. Okay, no obligation. You can get a pair of hearing aids and return it in 30 days without any obligation. Okay. Of course, you might have to pay for some service fees for the audiologist, but that's a one-time. But I always recommend patients that you have this option, you have this right, exercise it. So if one set of hearing aids are okay, but you are not fully satisfied with it, ask your audiologist, do you work with another company, manufacturer that I can try? And they'll be happy to work with you. Okay. A lot of times it's their recommendation, but every recommendation does not work equally well for every patient. So just know that we have options and rights. Other things, there are now many different types of hearing aids available. In the traditional model of obtaining a hearing aid is you go to an audiologist or a hearing aid dispenser, and they do a hearing test for you, and then say, you will benefit, or you might benefit, or you most likely you're going to benefit from a pair of hearing aids. You need help. So here is a set of hearing aids for you, and you try it out. Okay, so that's kind of the prescription model of hearing aids. And typically, those are pretty expensive. And I have seen a pair of hearing aids through this prescription model run anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000, all the way, you won't believe this, up to $10,000. That, in my mind, that should not be. And that is not, there is no evidence that those hearing aids work any better than the cheapest hearing aid. I'll address that in details later. So that's the prescription model of hearing aids. But thankfully, in 2017, the Congress passed something called an over-the-counter Hearing Aids Act. Because the key here is we want to make sure hearing care is affordable and accessible to everybody. As you can imagine, if you're able to drive and you are independent, it's great that you can make an appointment with an audiologist and go get your hearing tested. But the problem is, a lot of elderly individuals are not able to drive for a host of reasons. And somebody else have to take a day off from their work to help their family members. So it's not the most convenient way to get help. So affordability and accessibility is very important. So very recently, the current administration signed an executive order that the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, needs to come up with the guidelines for a new category of hearing aids called over-the-counter hearing aids. Okay, so what that means is you would be able to walk in to CVS or Walgreens or your pharmacy and pick up a pair of hearing aids over the counter, and you could have your hearing test from anywhere. And the hearing test will now have to have a marker, like, is it a category 1? I'm just creating a new term here. It's not approved yet, but FDA is supposed to tell us. Like, you know how you go to Walmart and get your Dr. Scholl foot, I don't know, the gel foot cushions, something similar to that. Christy, you were saying something, right?
Yeah, the inserts.
The insole inserts, yes.
Yeah.
So something similar. So the advantage here is you are looking at paying hundreds of dollars, let's say $200 to $300, as opposed to thousands of dollars. Now the idea here is that if you're comfortable in kind of self-caring for yourself with the help of family members, it will be a good first step to make sure that your ears are getting stimulated. Why is that important? Because there is, just 2 years ago, a really interesting paper came out from Medical University of South Carolina. So they do a lot of very interesting research. They were showing that the average time from the time somebody thinks that they have a hearing loss and they actually get a pair of hearing aids is 8.5 years.
Wow.
And it is a slow process. Hearing loss is a slowly worsening process, but still, what happens? Think about it. Now, when our ears don't get the input, we as people adapt to it because it's a slow process. So we kind of grumble, we complain, we say, oh, everybody is mumbling, and so on and so. But also, our brains are amazing. Our brains kind of learn to take the degraded cues that we get and make sense of it. So we miss some, we get some, but we hang around and we survive. right? That's the MO at that point of time. But what happens is, think about the quality of input the brain was receiving, right? So it gets deprived slowly, but constantly there's deprivation. As a result, remember, our memory is nothing but retrieval, because we have all the information. And when you say, what's his name, or what's the name, or you're trying to retrieve it from your storage, right? So when our brains are not getting, I know I'm oversimplifying it, way oversimplifying, but I think I am telling you this without compromising the science. Okay, so what happens is we have trouble feeding our brain the auditory stimulus. So there are some interesting data coming out. It's very early in the game, but we're saying that there's a strong correlation between people who have the stronger hearing loss you have, or more severe hearing loss you have. There's an association with more retrieval problems, memory issues. Let me make it clear, hearing loss does not cause memory problems, but it kind of coexists. So we are now looking at, if we start intervening early, that means people start wearing hearing aids earlier and earlier, will that help? It's like doing a Sudoku puzzle, right? At least you're not causing any harm, you are stimulating. So there was a new research that came out of the UK in England, that they showed some promising signs that actually people wearing hearing aids through early intervention, these are elderly individuals. They can do it because they have a socialized medicine, they have control groups. I'm jealous of them, Christy, but they showed us that yes, people are actually doing slightly better. So we'll take that as a positive. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my earlier point that I was making, is that do we need to spend a fortune to kind of keep our ears engaged and brains engaged? An overwhelming answer, I can definitely tell you, actually, I really have some interesting data from my own lab, that there's absolutely no difference between the basic level of hearing aids. So if you go to an audiologist's office and the audiologist says, let's say, Mr. and Mrs. Wenger, you went to an audiologist's office, and they said, we have basic level of hearing aid technology, we have mid-level of technology, and we have premium technology. Okay, and the premium level of technology will cost about $6,000 to $7,000 for a pair of hearing aids, and about that's what it costs. Okay, if you go to I would always recommend, I know you are in Culpeper, which is a little bit not near a university, but you are pretty close to James Madison University, you are pretty close to University of Maryland or Gallaudet. University clinics always have really highly qualified clinicians, because we are mentoring best practice. Also, because university clinics are nonprofit, their costs are manageable. Okay, so I will put a plug for any university clinic, audiology clinic or speech clinic, if you ever need a help. That's a good option. Now, let me go back to the previous point. So let's say you go to an audiologist's office and the highest level of hearing aids are $6,000 to $7,000. And the most basic level of hearing aids in our clinic at James Madison University, we sell them for about $2,000 a pair. Okay. And guess what? Research in my lab and NIH-funded clinical trial just showed, NIH-funded clinical trial at University of Memphis just showed that there is actually absolutely no difference between the basic level difference and the premium level hearing aid technology. There are some subtle benefits, but guess what? The benefits are more to the audiologist. Why? If somebody has a funky hearing loss, this high level of hearing aids can help us adjust much better. They have a lot more features that we can help fine tune. But another research study showed us that majority of people in their 60s, 70s, and 70s have what we call just a sloping hearing loss that does not need anything out of ordinary, just a clean sound amplification with a hearing aid that knows what it is supposed to do. That means it knows when it needs to turn it down by itself so that you are not fiddling with it. Okay. And it gives you a couple of options. For example, you're listening to TV, you're listening to, let's say, in a noisy place like a restaurant, and one-on-one conversation. And if we can do that, most people are satisfied. And we were able to, in my lab, we were able to demonstrate that there is no difference in electroacoustic characteristics, means what the hearing aids do. And also, when we look at their pupil eyes dilation, no difference. So here's another plug. If you are given options, please ask your audiologist, can I have the option of trying out a high-level technology and a basic level of technology? I want to hear for myself. What is the difference? Maybe sometimes it'll show you some difference. Dr. Ludlow, yes, please.
Yeah, if you have the same hearing loss in both ears, can you try one high level one in one ear and one low level one in the other?
You can. But what happens is today's hearing aids, they communicate with each other.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
basically, you just have to have a pair of the
Okay.
same technology.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
Actually, these hearing aids are very interesting now. What used to be really expensive hearing aids 10 years ago, those are the premium here. Those are the basic hearing aids now. So
Yeah.
you are getting more bang for your bucks today. So yeah. One more last thing that I will say that then we'll take, I bet you have a lot of questions, is a newer category of hearing aids are coming up. They're called self-fitting hearing aids. That means your iPhone, the AirPods, the little things, I always get a chuckle out of it. Have you seen those little AirPods Apple makes? They look like those Oral-B toothbrush heads to me, right? Those somebody is sticking those in their ears. But Apple just released an audiogram capability for it. That means just yesterday, actually, that was just launched. So you can take your audiogram and you enter it into your iPhone and your AirPods, which cost about $200 a pair. They will work as your hearing aids. Now, I'm excited about it because think about it. It's not for everybody, but look how much help we can provide to people who need. So Bose, the headphone company, they are another leading manufacturer. They just released a pair of, they're not calling it a hearing aid, but FDA calls something their de novo approval. Basically, they just did it a couple of months ago. We just had a conference, Christy, on Saturday. So we had the head of NAL from Australia speak, and head of Bose, and a person from University of Iowa. We had a fascinating discussion about just this topic. But Bose has launched their hearing aids where you wear hearing aids that look like a pair of hearing aids. But everything else is through your phone, whether you are using a Samsung or you're using an Apple iPhone, does not matter. You can test your hearing through that, and you are going to adjust the volume through that. You're going to adjust the treble and bass through that. So now we are democratizing hearing health. Of course, it's not for everybody, right? Not everybody is comfortable, and many people actually, there was another very interesting study that was done in Australia. Majority of people prefer to be, at least for the first time, to be kind of a handheld and kind of showed around the ropes, right? I consider myself a tech person, but I have not explored even 10% of the features my phone has. I don't need it. I just do my Zoom or whatnot. I pick up the phone, that's it. So I can imagine not everybody is going to be comfortable, but it's good to have the options. Okay, so those are some of the points I wrote down. And Christy, I know I have not addressed all the questions. So let me take a pause here. And what we are going to do is we'll open the floor for questions. And then if I sense that there is a perfect point, I have my cheat sheet and notes from Dr. Ludlow. She had 7 or 8 questions. I can go back and forth. Will that work? Okay.
Patty, you're muted.
I think Mike had his hand up first, but I'll jump in. Thank you for this, Dr. Raup. This is really, really interesting. My husband just got hearing aids, and he's having a hard time adjusting to them, I think. He complains that he can hear when he eats, the chewing is really loud.
Mhm.
And I just wonder how long it takes to get adjusted, if there's something I can help him with to adjust to them. We were at a family reunion last week, and a lot of people sitting around, and I think the confusion of all those voices kind of prevented him from participating very much. So I wonder what I can do or tell him that would help with those things.
Wonderful question. I bet a lot of people have, I hear this a lot. The good news is some of the issues that he is facing are fixable with programming. So, so what I recommend people is to make a journal, basically, write down exactly, because when you go to the audiologist, they'll say, so where did you have trouble? And sometimes it's hard to kind of recall everything, but if you've written down, they'll be able to. So I can tell you why this is happening. Usually when somebody gets a hearing aid, they have gone through the slow process of hearing decline. And all of a sudden, we give everything that was lost. So there is an overstimulation.
Okay.
For example, the soft sounds. So you start driving the car, and when you put the turn signal, you hear the blinker goes really loud. Like, where did that come from? Or footsteps, or your own chewing. These are things he had not heard for a long time. And all of a sudden, they are overly noticeable. So the key word is noticeable. So now we have to make sure that he learns to know that, okay, I was hearing this long time ago. Sometimes silence is a good thing, isn't it? But having this overwhelming number of sounds is a little difficult. So if it is becoming a problem, so the hearing aids have a feature called a graduated adjustment of gain. So basically they will turn down the loudness for those soft sounds. It's very easy to fix. Okay, and then when he goes back to the audiologist in a year, they can readjust it. But the problem with noise, I will tell you that as good as today's hearing aids are, they really cannot do a whole lot to separate one person's noise from another person's voice, right? So it'll continue to be a problem. A lot of times I tell people that just turn the volume down a little bit, or make sure you have eye contact. They help a little bit. It's better than having no hearing aid at all, but sometimes initial stages, it gets overwhelming.
Mhm. Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you very
welcome.
much.
Yes. Joyce,
Actually,
Mike,
it's
yes.
Scott question. Thank you very much. I do appreciate this. And Christy, as you can imagine, I've got a whole list of questions here. So I don't want to dominate the questions, but I do want to ask my questions.
Sure, please.
Let's start with the personal sound amplification devices that are on the market. We dropped off for a second. I don't know if you talked about these already, but it's a really crowded market with dozens of products out there, and they only cost a couple of $100.
Yeah.
They're not the self-programmable stuff that you were talking about that Apple and Bose are putting out, but they are available.
Yeah.
What about those?
They're basically cheap amplifiers. I would stay away from them because we just published a paper 2 years ago on PSAPs. They call it personal sound amplifier products. So the Food and Drug Administration classifies those as hearing improvement for normal hearing people. Let me turn my blind, close my blind. The sun decided to show up in my face. So this PSAPs or personal sound amplification. You go on eBay or Amazon, they are dime a dozen. It goes from $29 to $399. There are a couple of good ones. And they're actually, interestingly, this company that I know, they sell this as PSAPs because they are readying themselves. They're getting ready to market those same things as hearing aids, over-the-counter hearing aids, when that approval is available. But in general, if you buy any amplifier less than $200, those usually don't work. They have a lot of distortion. And the thing that worries me the most about them is because they don't have to go through the Food and Drug Administration's approval process, or even they don't have to register. So what happens is, a lot of times they can make things very loud. For example, you are wearing that and somebody decides to vacuum, and it could damage your hearing further. So I would caution against those PSAP products for the most part. There are a couple of good ones. There is one called Etymologic Research's Bean, B-E-A-N, but that's $400. So that's going into a higher category.
Thank you. Great answer. And $400 is still better than $2,000. So
Exactly.
Some people may want to use that as an option. One of the other, we wrap at home, one of our kind of ongoing concerns is people that live alone, elderly, and have undiagnosed hearing loss. So we partner with, have been trying to partner with the Lions Club, which does, as you know, hearing screening. Which hasn't happened because of COVID. We'll continue to do that. But these self tests for hearing that you talked about, the online stuff that your group is working with, some of the things that Apple is doing. How do you suggest we try to help our members access that self-testing to be able to at least get a first cut at their hearing audiogram?
Sure. Actually, there are many of these tests that are available now. The one that I like really the most was actually an NIH-funded project that came out of University of Rochester, NTID, and they have actually made it freely available now. So Christy, I can email you the link. And what you have to have a laptop or a desktop and a pair of headphones or like earbuds. Then that'll give you a hearing test. But it is still a little bit involved. That means you have to know how to make sure you're clicking the right thing. On the other extreme of the spectrum, there are these questionnaires. There are these validated questionnaires, like online questionnaires. Like if you have this, you might have hearing loss, right? So there'll be a questionnaire for 10 questions. You are standing at the checkout of a grocery. You cannot follow the cashier. So there will be a 3-point or 5-point scale. That is often a really good indicator. You don't need any devices. You don't need anything. You just ask the questions, and that can tell you if you need a hearing test or not. So I would recommend doing a questionnaire like that. I can email Dr. Ludlow a couple of links. Those are all free. You don't have to sign up for anything. Just they're freely available. And then if there is significant hearing trouble, they're reporting, self-reporting, then they can take a hearing test through the computer. Okay, and then that'll kind of tell you where you are. We think they're fairly accurate, but as you can imagine, having different types of headphones, different noise levels in the background, the results are not as accurate, but they will take you to a ballpark. At least they'll tell you, you need to consult an audiologist now or not, those kind of things. So I'll be happy to send those links to you. Also, there's always the gold standard, because what happens is everybody's lifestyle is different from the next person. So that means how much hearing need a person has, right? Somebody, let's say, lives by themselves, hearing becomes a safety issue at that point, right? I don't agree with many of my colleagues who lives in a nursing home and just watches TV. They don't need much help. I say the opposite. Hearing is a safety issue at that point. So everybody's need is different. So at some point, each person should get the help from an audiologist, at least get a hearing test. And people are doing in-person hearing tests now. So they will come to your house and do testing. So that's very good. Yes.
I had a couple of questions. First of all, is it safe to go to an audiologist these days with COVID issues? I think that's what's keeping a lot of people away from going and getting hearing testing and looking at hearing aids, because they're concerned about contact.
That's a valid question. And that's why we are seeing this explosion of hearing tests, online hearing tests now in the last 2 years. But audiologists, being healthcare providers, they do practice. But unlike many other professions where you can maintain a distance, in audiology, you are looking in their ear. When you're looking in their ear, your nose and their nose is very close. So that's a valid concern. Even though somebody's wearing a mask, I would recommend that getting an online test for now, but at some point, seeing an audiologist is a good strategy.
Okay. Now, doing testing online, many of us have earwax, and we don't know to what degree we have earwax, and that may be distorting our hearing as well as the inner ear problems that you mentioned.
Good question. Go ahead. I'll finish up your question. I jumped in.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
My question is, what do you do about that?
Okay. The good thing about hearing testing with earwax is earwax, if it is not completely impacted, it will not affect your hearing threshold.
Oh, okay.
As long as we have a tiny little hole for the sound to enter, we are fine. And,
Okay.
and we have noticed that if you have even 10 to 15% of your ear canal open for the sound to enter, your hearing threshold will be within normal limits or within your actual thresholds. And earwax actually falls off, but with aging, what happens is, we start developing hair in our ear canals. So the earwax gets trapped in there. So your annual visits, I'm not very confident, at least in my family practitioner's ability to take earwax out because they're
Right.
not trained very well in that
No.
area. So if they try to take the earwax out, I would rather have an otolaryngologist do it
Yeah.
than a family physician or a nurse do it.
Okay. And you mentioned this, getting an audiometric evaluation so that you have, your thresholds at different frequencies, then that can be put in to program the hearing aid, rather than going to an audiologist right now during COVID, or what?
We can do that online, actually. Audiologists, so hearing aids can be remotely programmed. So basically, hearing aids, all the hearing aids, that's the advantage. Remember how I was saying it helps the audiologist when you get the high level? But now, because of COVID, we get the same technology at mid-level hearing aids also. So what happens is the hearing aid will be paired by Bluetooth to your phone, whether it's an Android phone or iPhone, really does not matter. And basically, all you have to do is turn your hearing aid on and your phone on, they will find each other. You do not have to do anything. At the most, it'll ask you for privacy. Your phone wants to connect to hearing aids. Do you approve? You say yes. And when you do that as a patient on the other side, the audiologist will be able to connect to your phone.
I see. So the audiologist goes through the phone to adjust your hearing aid for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
So let me just take it step by step. Say I'm
Sure.
somebody, I think I have a hearing loss,
Mhm.
and I want to do something about it. Given the COVID situation, what do I do? Do I, first of all, you said going to an audiologist is a concern these days because of the closeness of an audiologist to you in doing testing. So what would I do?
First thing to call the audiologist's office, say what kind of protocols they're following to COVID. Second, it's the vaccination level. If the audiologist is vaccinated and you're vaccinated, so there's a level of protection that we have. Also, ask.
What about, for instance, at James Madison, is your clinic open for?
We are open, actually. We were open last year also, but we have plexiglass. We actually, instead of doing a regular otoscope, we do a video otoscope. So basically,
I
we
see.
put the probe in the ear and we see on a computer screen. So that we maintain that distance. And I have been pleased, actually. Many audiologists are following that.
Good.
So that's a good thing. But it always starts with a phone call and saying that I would like to get my hearing tested, but I am a little bit concerned about the COVID situation. I want to know what protocols are you following? Would you recommend? What would you recommend? So you can also be your own advocate and say, I did my own hearing test and this is what I have. So the conversation can start from there.
Okay.
But from a small sample here at James Madison University's clinic here, we are seeing about 5 to 6 new patients every day,
Okay.
5 days a week. And touch wood, we haven't had any issues. And all our patients are retirees and Medicare patients. So we have managed pretty well so far.
Good. So I just wanted to say for everybody, where Culpeper is, we're a distance. The universities that are closest to us are James Madison, which is about an hour away if you're driving slowly over the mountains,
Yeah.
and UVA. But does UVA have an audiology clinic?
They do, they actually, but the audiology clinic is not independent, so it's a part of otolaryngology.
I see.
So-
Okay.
So, but they do have, they do
Okay.
have they have like 12 audiologists there.
Okay. Okay. So people could still go to the audiology clinic then at a university as the initial step.
Yes,
Okay. And then they get a prescription based on their hearing profile.
Mhm.
And then what happens? Do they order the aid or what happens?
The audiologist does the hearing aid ordering. So basically,
Okay.
The way in most clinics it works is when an audiologist, I say audiologists charge, let's say $5,000 for a pair of hearing aids. Think of it as the cost of treatment for the lifetime of the hearing aids. So let's say 6 to 7 years, how long ever it lasts. So everything is included in that. For example, your follow-up, your programming, fine-tuning, your warranty. Hearing aids typically come with 3 years of lost and damaged warranty. So because if you lose a hearing aid, it's expensive. So it comes with that. The audiologist orders the hearing aids, and then they'll set another appointment in a week or two to program your hearing aids, because I know, Christy, you had a specific question on that. So each person's hearing requires a different type of programming. So it's unique to each individual. And that programming is done. And often it needs fine tuning. So what we do at JMU is that we ask the patients to maintain a journal. Like, so just write down, oh, I was hiking and I could hear the birds, but they were way too loud, for example. Or I love my husband, but when he breathes, it sounds like he's panting. So whatever. I mean, these are real life scenarios. So that means it goes back, like we need to adjust the hearing aid more, and those things can be done. Okay.
So what do they mean by over-the-counter hearing aids? That none of that could be done with over-the-counter hearing aids, could they?
So now over-the-counter is an interesting concept. It's basically designed, actually, if from all the things that I'm reading, it's designed at the 40 to 50-year-old or maybe 60-year-old, that younger group who have hearing loss, but they don't do anything about it because there is the stigma of hearing aid and all those things associated with, and the cost, of course. And of course, it is only for adults of any age. Now, what happens is you can get your self hearing test, or you go to an audiologist's office and find out what your hearing level is. Then you could walk into a place, and depending on the severity of your hearing loss, there will be categories. That's what the Food and Drug Administration is working on right now.
I see. So there'll be categories that they do programming for based on the audiogram.
Yeah, and they're kind of modeling it after the prescription reading glasses. So like you go look at it, but the hearing aids you cannot try, because once it goes in your ear, you cannot return it. So that's a problem. So I want to go back to one thing, Christy, you asked, is when you go to an audiologist, and if it is determined that you could benefit from hearing aids, ask for a pair of free trial hearing aids, right? That's within your rights.
Okay.
And you can try it out and see.
So
what it
before
does
you pay the $5,000, you can get a trial
for
to
30
just
days.
walk around for 30 days. Okay. To see if it's worth it for you.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even need 30 days. What you could do is, can I try different technology levels? I would strongly urge you all to try out a $2,000 pair of hearing aids to a $5,000 and find for yourself, does it really benefit? Because that's a huge sum of money. And if it's not really tailored to help you, then why spend that much of money.
Okay, great. Carl, you had some questions.
Yes, go ahead, Carl.
Excuse me. Yeah, I've got tinnitus, pretty bad tinnitus caused by noise damage. Could a hearing aid do anything for me, or would the tinnitus overcome the hearing aid?
Actually, hearing aids are amazingly useful. Let me put it that way. They don't cure tinnitus, but what happens is that tinnitus happens because your brain is not getting the input. The brain is designed to get input from the ear all the time. When you have hearing loss, you hear a phantom noise, basically. That's what it is. So the tinnitus is actually coming from inside your head. But the cool thing is if we put a noise outside, for example, a hearing aid, the hearing aid is constantly on always. So it actually masks the tinnitus. So as long as you're wearing the hearing aid has a circuit noise and it is amplifying everything and anything. Some of those are good, some of those are annoying, but a byproduct of that is it actually suppresses the tinnitus as long as you're wearing it. Okay, so that's a good thing. My problem is tinnitus bothers people the most when they go to bed, right?
Yeah, at night when you've got your hearing aid off.
Yes. So the tinnitus needs more than just hearing aid. So there are techniques, what we call tinnitus retraining therapy. Basically, it's using mindfulness and kind of learning how to live with tinnitus. So basically, we present different type of tones, kind of train your brain that learn to live with it. You'll be amazed how this simple concept, it actually works. It takes about 6 months or so, but you do therapy sessions, or you can do it at home now. There's a computerized, everything is computerized now. So you can sign up for a module where you do computer-based tinnitus therapy treatment. So you put a pair of headphones, you listen to tones and learn to ignore because you are learning to do something else. So, but yes.
You want to send us the link for that,
I
Scott,
can.
just so I can include it to everybody? That
I
would be
can,
great.
yes.
How would I search for that? Tinnitus retraining therapy?
Tinnitus retraining therapy will have to be done with an audiologist, but I can send you, I know there is a program that was developed at Cambridge in England. They have made it freely available to anybody who's interested to try out. And I know right now there is a NIH grant in Texas. They're using a computerized cognitive behavioral therapy. So where an audiologist can help you just remotely. So, but those things are not available yet.
But the first step is to see an audiologist.
Yes, and I know firsthand through there was a project that we did in our lab that hearing aids do, at least temporarily in the short term, manage your tinnitus. But the problem still remains that at night, when you go to bed, before you fall asleep, what do you do? So basically what I recommend is having a bedside, like a radio, an alarm, whatever, and you turn those things you get for like $20. Thunder, rain, rainforest sounds.
Oh, yeah, right.
That plays and that turns off in 1 hour. So you fall asleep, it turns off. So those things work. The concept is that tinnitus is annoying and it is difficult to treat, but there's a simple solution where you can mask it with external noise.
But a hearing aid is definitely helpful though.
Yes, I can vouch for that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Sharon.
I've tried hearing aids twice and given up on them. First time I went to an audiologist. I have definitely much worse hearing in my left ear than the right, and I got only a hearing aid to the left ear. I don't remember now, it's been 10 to 15 years,
Mhm.
exactly why, but I gave up on it. Then I ordered this MD hearing aid, $300, $400. And they seem to be some use. I guess that's similar to what you're saying is over the counter. But then I couldn't apparently keep them clean correctly, so they blocked up with earwax. I'm just wondering, is it hopeless? And I think the big problem with hearing loss for elderly people like me is that you tend to isolate. If you can't understand what people are saying, you can withdraw.
Sharon, that's a very important question and very relevant to what we are doing right now, discussing. So I'll actually address your last question first, and then we'll go backwards because it's very important. It is not hopeless because what happens is when you have hearing loss, you tend to not get engaged in conversation, particularly when you have quite a bit of hearing loss. A little bit of hearing loss you can get by. So you tend to miss out on conversations. Then say, what's the point? I can't hear, I'm not going to pick up the phone. Let somebody else pick up the phone. So those are some of the things that happens, but hearing aids do help. Now, since you did mention that you have what we call an asymmetrical hearing loss, what happens is when you get one hearing aid and not do anything about the other hearing aid, you still have that asymmetry. Okay? And our brain is designed to kind of take input from both sides, and it does not like when you have asymmetry. So you still have that problem persist. So having just the cheapest, most basic level of hearing aids to both ears will help. Now, you did say that you bought MD hearing aids, MD like Maryland. If you subscribe to Reader's Digest or AARP, you cannot escape their advertisement. They're a hearing aid, not a company. It's an ENT doctor. I happen to know the guy. It's junk. It is junk. And basically those are cheap amplifiers that are shaped like real hearing aids. They look like real hearing aids and they mail you. And if we have learned anything about what makes success with hearing aids, it's an audiologist helping the person. Remember, these are highly technical devices. Second, as you mentioned, Sharon, earwax, if it gets plugged up, then your hearing aid is not working. So we need somebody to kind of help you on a regular basis. So if you have an audiologist, what you can do is drop your hearing aid off. Their front office staff are trained just to clean the hearing aid for you. Every couple of months, you do that, and your hearing aid is working fine. You can also do it by yourself. It comes with a little brush. These are some of the perks when you do get your hearing aid through an audiologist, because that's the proper quality care that you get. So you have already seen like the $400 or whatever dollars you spent on MD hearing aids. That's back in the nightstand drawer right now, because they don't work very well. Okay, so if I have a solution for you, I know it's an expensive option, but to go and see an audiologist and see what I can do, because clearly you're saying that it's isolating, and we do not want that to happen. So because that getting involved and having a part of being a part of conversation is very important. So please make an appointment with an audiologist. I'm sure, if not anything, sometimes, typically university clinics will do that. They will ask you to bring your previous hearing aids, because university clinics are not in the business
What?
of selling you a pair of hearing aids.
Sharon, did you get that?
No.
What he's saying is that you can go with your previous hearing aid.
I don't
And-
have, I have no current hearing aids.
Oh, okay, you threw it away.
Yeah.
Okay,
That-
that
that-
happens.
Yeah, that happens. And you can make an appointment once this pandemic is over, hopefully very soon. Should make an appointment. And I think that'll be the best first step now.
There's a branch of UVA in Culpeper. I don't understand how it works. Is it possible that Culpeper has an audiologist connected with UVA?
I
We
don't
can-
know.
We can look into that. I know there are audiologists, but there are commercial audiologists and for-profit in Culpeper, and that's the problem. So going to UVA or going to JMU might be worthwhile for you, rather than going to a for-profit audiologist.
Well, I get that part, but
Yeah.
I don't like to do that kind of driving anymore. So going to Culpeper would work if I could get a nonprofit audiologist in Culpeper. I guess I
Okay.
can go in there and ask.
Yep, that won't hurt.
I'm much less scared of COVID than you are, Christy, so I'd be perfectly comfortable to be in the doctor's office. I just don't want to have to drive that far to get
Yeah.
there.
Okay, can we turn it over? Is anybody else? Patty, you had some questions?
Yeah, you may have answered this already because I've had to jump off and answer the phone a couple of times. But what about insurance coverage?
Yes, good point. Christy actually had that in there. So unfortunately, Medicare does not cover hearing aids, but the Advantage plans do, depending on the plan. I was just looking up, for example, there's a Premier something in Virginia. So that will cover hearing aids up to $2,000. Okay. I know for university employees here at JMU, our Blue Cross Anthem covers hearing aids. But in general, you have to pay something from pocket. Hearing aids are expensive. If somebody is having trouble paying, has difficulty paying, there are nonprofit organizations, typically through university clinics. We work through Lions Club and then Sartoma and other, and there's a hearing aid company, Starkey Hearing Aid Foundation. So there's a paperwork involved, but they will provide you hearing aids for free. And these are not used hearing aids. These are brand new hearing aids.
Oh,
And-
that's wonderful news.
Yes, and we work with people who need that help.
Well,
Excellent, excellent.
my husband went to, or we went to Veterans Administration,
Yeah,
but,
Yep.
and on Mike Wenger's recommendation, and they seem to be very good. Problem is they're an hour and a half away, so it becomes an excursion, but still, I mean, it was covered by my husband's Army service, which
Yeah.
was nice.
and veterans, they do best practice, and as long as you can drive it, it's worth the drive.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? I see Mike Wanger is on by phone if he still has some questions. Anybody else have questions?
There we go. I think audio is working. This is Mike.
Yeah,
No, but I've got two takeaways from this, Dr. Rout. One, to Sharon's point, perhaps Rapid Home can figure out some way to help provide transportation for people to the right kind of clinic, and we could perhaps mass schedule. So we'll follow up on that. And the second one, Richard Anthony's on, or at least was. I don't know what our local Lions Club does as far as helping people get hearing aids in the support program. So, we can follow up on both of those things. So among all of the other good things that have come out of this session, those two things give us some specific things to follow up on. So thank you very much.
yes, we might take a group to JMU for testing and,
We would love that, for sure. We are happy to help. Yes.
Well, you know,
Okay.
I'll jump in here. I'm going to be talking, this is Mike, I'm going to be talking to Kristen Lamperaza today about possible ways we could partner for, I think AARP grants or no, the Lights Fund grant.
Yeah.
Maybe a transportation thing to go to audiology clinics would be an idea.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
okay, so you may see a crowd, Iasconta.
I'll alert them.
Okay, anybody else, any questions? The last chance. You have been just wonderful. I can't thank you enough for this wonderful presentation. I'm
Thank you.
going to try and write it up and send you a draft and get all my pieces correct and all my links so I can share it with everyone.
And I
but-
have a note. I'm going to send you those links.
Great, great. Okay, so last chance for questions. And I think we're finished, and that was just a wonderful, wonderful session. Just thank you so much.
Thank you. I am honored. I'm honored that you asked me to talk.
Okay,
Have a good weekend, everybody.
yes, thanks very much. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.